Hey everyone, I'm just sitting here on the dock, hanging out, waiting to catch a ferry. There's a ferry here, but it's going to Vashon, and I'm going to Southworth. So probably that ferry out there on the water is mine. It's waiting for this ferry to leave, and then that ferry is going to come on in and pick me up, and off we go to Babyland. And I was thinking about homemakers who very often are in charge of the family budget and the effect that this has on a person's worldview and how they look at state budgets and the federal government's budget. So I have found through personal experience and conversations with a lot of people that the people who manage their own budget, who balance the budget for their family, those people understand that income fluctuates, and sometimes when income drops, you have to make hard choices. And this corresponds or is in addition to the fact that if you balance the budget, you generally understand that going into debt and paying interest is a very scary hole that's hard to crawl out of. When we combine those things, we end up with people who are sort of fiscally conservative, and they're willing to pay the price in the short term for long-term economic stability. And that's basically why I think that I personally, and a lot of other people like me, are appreciating the fact that right now we're really trying to correct a financial situation that has been careening out of control for a while. And when things come up, for example, this is at an international level now, right? So when you've got President Trump shaking up the entire planet and saying, okay, I'm going to use tariffs as a tool to get everyone's attention, and you all better send your diplomats over here and show up, and we're going to have some meetings, and we're going to have some conversations because things need to get dealt with, and currently the situation is not tenable, cannot continue the way it is. My response to that, and the response of a lot of people that I know, is okay, we might have a couple of rough months or a couple of rough years. And that makes a lot of sense. That's not surprising. So first of all, it's not surprising. It's like, oh, well, duh. You look at your your college age kid who is like complaining that they have a bunch of debt, and you're like, well, yup, you chose to incur a bunch of debt, now you got to deal with it. So we are not surprised that it's going to be some lean years. So there's that piece, which is, you're not surprised. Then there's the fact that homemakers, who oftentimes are quietly balancing the budget without necessarily the money makers knowing about it. So in my marriage, before we were married, when we first got together, I was 24, and he was 42, roughly. And his finances were a mess. I'm meticulous about budgeting, and he, very casual, would sit down roughly once a month, grab a bunch of bills, pay them, didn't really pay attention to what the due date was. He was late half the time, by a few days, and had like 9 credit cards that all had small little balances scattered all over them. And so he was like, yeah, I'd love to have someone step in and pay all my bills for me and take this job off my shoulders. So I stepped in, and then when I was pregnant with our first son, I said, look, I don't believe in debt unless it's your house and maybe a car. I don't believe in debt. So I don't want to give birth to my child and have the family flooded in debt. Can we refinance the house and pay off all of these credit cards and get out of debt and just be paying, living on our own actual income? And he agreed with that. That was great. We did a refi. We chopped up all these cards, got rid of them. And so after that, though, he's like, you just handle all the bills. And I was like, great, cool. I'll come up with a budget. It'll be like a nice little spreadsheet. We'll have all of our bills, and then we'll sit down once a month after I pay the bills, and I'll give a little report to you about what happened that month. And were there any unexpected expenses? Did we have a vet visit? Did a child need some cavities filled? And we'll just look at the budget and decide if there's anything we need to do for the next year or next month or something. And he said, oh, no. I don't want to have monthly budget meetings. I don't even want to have annual budget meetings. Like, you do it. And I said, how am I supposed to make all these economic decisions on behalf of both of us if we're not sitting down talking about it and you don't know what's going on? And he said, all I want is to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. Just make sure that there's enough money in the bank that if I randomly want to go into the city or go to a concert or go to a baseball game or whatever, that I don't have to think about it. I don't have to ask, do I have the money? I just want to know I have the money and that I can do it. It happened to work well for us because he didn't spend tons of money, actually, so it worked out, and I just got really good at making sure there was enough of a cushion that it could absorb any surprises. But after, 28 years later, I have a lot of experience quietly handling the budget. I'm the one who also does all the grocery shopping and all the cooking. So maybe one month we're having, there's like a rib roast, or we have this or that going on. Another month there might be like a lot of spaghetti and, maybe some bread being turned into French toast, or, because different portions of your budget can be bigger or smaller based upon your lifestyle. I didn't have a cell phone for a really long time. I was horrified by people who were spending $300 a month on their family's cell phone plans. I mean, that absolutely horrified me. And so on and so forth. So homemakers oftentimes have really great habits, skills, and attitudes around budgeting. And I think that causes them to look at how the government is spending money with not just some random anger. We're not just like vitriolic and angry and, those evil people are stealing our money. No, we're often like, well, we want to know where you're spending that money. Show us the details, because we understand that the details matter. And then we might say, yeah, hey, guess what? You need to cut back. And politicians will try to scare you. They'll say, oh, if we cut back on spending, then poor people are going to starve and people are going to be homeless. And, they'll come up with a list of all, guess what? The sky will fall and the world will end if the government isn't basically taking care of you. And most of the homemakers I know, who also are the budget keepers of their family, are like, yeah, that's not actually how it works. You just need to contract what you're doing, and all the people out there in the world, they're going to find a way to figure out how to get through those lean times. And if there are people who are so close to the edge that the loss of a government subsidy pushes them over the edge, chances are they were going to fall over that edge anyways, because you have to be really, really actually personally messed up pretty badly in this country to not be able to take care of yourself. We're not a nation that is super hard to succeed in. So, and frankly, you're an adult. It's your job. Take care of yourself. Figure it out. That's what we do. When our husbands lose their job, if you're the wife, if you're the homemaker, it could be your wife loses a job, whatever. When the one who goes out into the world makes money loses their job, when they change a job and the income goes down, whatever it is, you as the homemaker, you just have to figure out how to make it work. You don't whine, you don't complain, you don't freak out about it. You just sit down, you pull out that pen and paper, you look at what you're spending, you figure out what you can cut, what you can live without, and then you figure out how you can actually get more resources, who can you trade with. You just get it done. And that, I think, is a attitude of empowerment that we need more Americans to have. We need to go away from the victim status and trying to figure out how you can prove you're a victim and therefore that you deserve other people to give you things for free. And instead, we need to get back to having a sense of honor around our ability to be resilient and self-sufficient. We also need thrift and frugality to become super, super popular and honorable again as well. Because when I grew up, thrift and frugality was something that all of the people who lived through the Great Depression and World War II, they all learned how to get along by using thrift and frugality. And that's how I've gotten along during lean times. And that's how the people of America, the people of Canada, the people of Britain, the people of the world will get by during lean times. And what we need is to choose lean times in the short term for economic betterment in the long term and not fall into the global totalitarian World Economic Forum trap of throwing our hands in the air and saying to random elitists who don't care about us whatsoever, oh, please save me now because I can't do it on my own. That needs to be what Americans don't do. So, thoughts from a homemaker.